People like to think family love is unconditional. That no matter what happens, your parents will love you, support you, and be proud of you. I learned early that wasn't always true. In our house, Celeste was the sun, and I was the shadow that came with her light. It wasn't just favoritism. It was systemic. She was the daughter they paraded at parties. The one whose school trophies were polished and displayed front and center. The one whose messy room was artistic and whose temper was passion. Me? I was the practical one. The quiet one. The you wouldn't understand, Grace one. I remember my 13th birthday vividly. I had made a cake myself, a little lopsided but baked with excitement. Celeste walked in, threw her bag on the kitchen table, and announced she'd been cast as Juliet in the school play. My parents cheered and immediately started planning a celebration. My cake sat untouched. That moment burned into my memory like a scar I couldn't remove. I tried, of course. Tried harder in school. Took up piano. Won math competitions. I thought maybe, just maybe, achievement could buy me affection. But it never worked. Celeste could fail and still be celebrated. I could win and still be invisible. So I learned to stop expecting things. No claps. No praise. No comfort. Just silence. It was lonely. But over time, I made peace with it. If no one was going to believe in me, I would believe in myself. By the time I graduated college, I already knew I wouldn't be handed anything in life. While Celeste got an apartment from our parents and connections to intern under a marketing executive, I juggled waitressing, tutoring, and coding boot camps. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. I remember the night Artemis Tech was born. I had just been laid off from a small PR firm. Their budget got slashed, and the first to go was the quiet girl in the corner. I came home to my crammed studio apartment, opened my laptop, and stared at the blinking cursor. That night, I wrote my mission statement: empower the underdogs. Give voice to those who build in silence. I didn't know what Artemis Tech would become. I just knew it would be mine. I taught myself web development from scratch. Picked up digital marketing from YouTube and trial and error. For months, I barely slept. I worked at a coffee shop during the day and built websites at night. My first client was a bookstore owner who couldn't afford a fancy agency. I charged him $100 for a full website, and he called it a miracle. That one website brought 3 more clients. Then 10. Each client was a win. Each dollar earned felt like proof I didn't need to be the golden child. I could be the phoenix. But still, I kept it quiet. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Celeste. Part of me was still the kid who feared they'd mock it. Dismiss it. And a bigger part of me wanted to show up one day, not to ask for support but to say, look what I did without you. That day came 2 years later. I had 12 full-time employees, an office downtown, and recurring clients across 3 countries. I sent them an invite to the grand opening of our new office space. They didn't come. Not even a text. But 2 months later, they showed up with Celeste in tow. Smiles on their faces. Hands stretched out. And the words that would set the next storm in motion: we're so proud of you, Grace. You've really made something. Now, about Celeste, she could really use a job. I should have said no. I should have remembered every time I was overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten. But when my parents sat across from me in my office, smiling like nothing had happened, and said, Grace, your sister's going through a rough patch, maybe you could help? I said yes. Celeste didn't even thank me properly. She just flipped her hair, walked into my company like she owned it, and acted like it was expected. I created a harmless-sounding position, brand engagement officer. It sounded important, but it wouldn't put her near sensitive projects. Or so I thought. At first, she played nice. Arrived on time. Asked innocent questions. Smiled in meetings. My employees were wary, but they trusted me. I had built Artemis Tech from the ground up, surely I knew what I was doing. But it didn't take long for her mask to slip. Celeste started copying my presentations, parroting buzzwords, and taking credit for other people's work. Worse, she began name-dropping our clients at parties and leaking our strategies like they were casual gossip. She once told a potential investor at a networking event, "Oh, I'm essentially Grace's partner in all this. I found out from someone else." Still, I stayed silent. I kept thinking, it's family. Let it go. But that's the trap, isn't it? You let one thing go, then another. Before you know it, you're standing in the ruins of what you built with your own hands because you were too afraid to say no to people who never truly valued you. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was reviewing our new cybersecurity protocols when my parents walked into the office without an appointment, uninvited, unannounced, and clearly rehearsed. They sat down like they belonged there. Celeste followed a few minutes later, smirking like she knew something I didn't. "We want to talk," my father said, folding his hands across his stomach like a CEO about to deliver an ultimatum. My mother smiled. "Celeste deserves more than what you're giving her." I blinked. "She's been here a few months. She doesn't even show up consistently." "She's your sister," she snapped. "You have this whole company. You owe her." My father leaned forward, voice calm but cold. "We think the fair thing is for you to give Celeste 50% ownership of Artemis Tech. As family." I stared at him, stunned. "You think I should just give her half of what I built?" Celeste shrugged, unapologetic. "You wouldn't even have a company if it weren't for my image and connections. People like me, Grace. I'm a face this company needs." I nearly laughed. Then she said it, the line that ended any illusion of peace, "If you don't agree, I'll make sure everything you've tried to hide comes out. I've seen your client lists. I know about the NDA with Dynatech. I know about the testing delay with Nexum. One leak. And you're done." My blood ran cold. They weren't asking. They were threatening me. I stood slowly and met each of their eyes. "No." They all blinked. "You won't get a share. You won't get a job. You won't even get a seat in this office again. Because I don't owe you anything." Celeste scoffed. "You'll regret this." I smiled. "No. You will." And I meant it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just building. I was ready to fight. They thought I would panic. They thought the threat alone would be enough to break me, to make me hand over what I had spent the last 5 years building, one late night, one small win, one brutal failure at a time. But they underestimated the one thing they never truly saw in me: fire. The moment they left my office, smug and convinced I'd cave, I locked the door and got to work. Step 1: lock it down. I called my legal team and activated the security protocols I had quietly built in for emergencies. My systems administrator locked Celeste's access that same hour. Every file she had ever viewed was tracked and reviewed. I flagged everything she'd touched. My lawyers reviewed her employment contract, and just as I'd suspected, she'd violated her NDA 3 times over. Step 2: protect the empire. The threat about leaking internal issues? I beat her to it. I held a private briefing with our board and disclosed the testing delays and the NDA situation with full transparency. I'd always kept my hands clean, and the issues were being resolved. But I made sure they heard it from me, not the tabloid my sister was planning to run to. Their support? Unwavering. They knew me. They trusted me. Celeste's leverage disintegrated in a matter of days. Step 3: set the trap. I reached out to a few mutual acquaintances, people I knew Celeste would try to impress. I leaked just enough information to bait her into bragging. And just as I predicted, she took it a step too far. At a luxury event for tech investors, Celeste was recorded boasting about being the co-founder of Artemis Tech and claiming that she was taking over soon. She even pulled up a confidential mock-up pitch deck, one she had illegally emailed to herself. My lawyer called it a perfect breach. The video, the file trail, and the forged claim of ownership? That was more than enough. We sued her. Full cease and desist. Intellectual property theft. Defamation. And the cherry on top? I made it very public. She had used my name for clout, so I made sure everyone in the industry knew what she did. That her job was a gift. That her betrayal was cold, calculated, and embarrassing. My parents tried calling me after the media fallout. I didn't answer. They tried coming to the office again. Security escorted them out before they reached the door. They had bet everything on my silence. And this time, I had chosen war. They say karma takes time. I disagree. In Celeste's case, it came swiftly, brutal in its precision, poetic in its timing. After I filed the lawsuit, things moved quickly. Her emails were subpoenaed. Her access history exposed. The leaked documents, the lies she fed to investors, the internal material she emailed to herself all became part of the public record. Suddenly, Celeste wasn't a social media darling anymore. She was a cautionary tale. I'll never forget the first news headline: founder's sister caught in corporate espionage scandal. From there, everything unraveled. Her so-called boyfriend, the one she had bragged about helping her climb higher than Grace ever could, ditched her the moment the press coverage turned sour. He deleted photos, unfollowed her, even issued a statement distancing himself from her misconduct. Celeste showed up at the office 2 days later, crying. Not with guilt, with desperation. She stood in the lobby, demanding to speak to me. Security asked her to leave. When she refused, I came down, flanked by 2 guards and my COO. Her mascara was running, hair wild, voice trembling. Grace. You don't have to do this. Please, we can talk. I looked at her, my sister, who once laughed when our parents told me I was just the backup daughter. The one they coddled while I worked 2 part-time jobs and coded my startup between shifts. Now here she was, asking me to stop the consequences of her own choices. You didn't care when you tried to ruin me, I said quietly. You weren't crying when you threatened to leak confidential data. Or when you said I owed you half of everything I built. Her lip trembled. I didn't mean it like that. Celeste, you meant every word. The problem is, you thought I'd still forgive you after. She reached out to grab my hand. I stepped back. I hope you learn from this, I said. But I'm not here to save you. I turned and walked away. That moment? It was harder than I expected, but it was also liberating. The days that followed were the coldest silence I've ever known from my family. No calls. No texts. Just a few passive-aggressive online posts about betrayal and money changing people. My mother left a voicemail crying, asking how I could destroy my sister like this. My father emailed me saying I'd gone too far. Gone too far? I was just protecting myself, something they never once did for me. But the worst moment came 3 weeks later, when I heard Celeste had moved back in with them unemployed, reputation shattered, burned bridges all around her. My parents had mortgaged part of their home to help her pay legal fees. She'd cried in court, claimed I always resented her, and begged for leniency. But there was no mercy in business. Her countersuit was dismissed. I had evidence. She had entitlement. And people like that, they fall hard because they never imagine they can. What really broke her wasn't the lawsuit. It was the silence. The silence from the people she used to impress. The silence from clients who once smiled at her. The silence from me. Because I wasn't coming to her rescue. Not anymore. I overheard an old friend of hers say, she used to act like she'd always land on her feet. Guess she finally fell too far. It wasn't joy I felt hearing that. It was closure. I had spent my life being the overlooked one, the forgotten one, the invisible workhorse while Celeste lived in the spotlight. Even when it wasn't hers to stand in. But now, I wasn't invisible anymore. I was undeniable. And they were finally seeing it too late to benefit, too late to latch on. They'd gambled my loyalty against their greed, thinking I would fold like always. This time, I didn't fold. I watched them lose. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. It didn't end in fireworks. It ended in silence. Not the kind that comes with peace, but the kind that follows a long overdue storm. The air was clearer, the skies calmer, but the damage was done. My family. Shattered. Celeste stayed with my parents after her public collapse. From what I heard, she barely left the house. No friends. No offers. No invitations. The girl who once gloated about being the chosen one had become a pariah. At first, I expected anger from my parents shouting, blaming, at least a heated confrontation. But what I got was much worse, quiet desperation. My mother sent long, rambling emails. Not to apologize, no. But to tell me how hard things had become since the incident. Celeste isn't doing well. Your father is stressed about the mortgage. None of this would have happened if you hadn't gone public. There it was again, their truth. Always twisted. Always convenient. They never once asked how I was doing. Never once acknowledged the betrayal, the threats, the emotional weight of fighting my own blood in court. Their grief was only ever measured in Celeste's fall, never in what it cost me to stand up to her. So I made a decision. I blocked their emails. Changed my number. I asked HR to deny any contact attempts. I wasn't going to entertain their manipulations in the name of family anymore. You see, I finally understood something that took me years to realize: family isn't who shares your blood. It's who stands beside you when it counts. And when it counted, they stood behind Celeste, ready to watch me fall if it meant she could rise. I didn't just build Artemis Tech to prove myself to the world. I built it because no one ever believed I could. Not them. Not my teachers. Not even my younger self, who once thought success had to come with their approval. But now? I had built something lasting. My company was growing, stable, and respected. My team, the one I chose, was fiercely loyal. They saw the truth. They watched what I went through, and many quietly told me they were proud. That I was right to protect myself. That it gave them courage to set boundaries in their own lives too. I had become the woman I needed when I was younger. And that, above all, is the legacy I care about. Not the hollow approval of a family who only loved me when I was useful. Not the forced smiles over holiday dinners soaked in resentment. Not the guilt-laced obligation of being the good daughter. I don't owe anyone pieces of myself just because we share a last name. Celeste made her choices. My parents made theirs. And I made mine.